Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zero Dark Nerdy, the world's most notorious pop culture podcast. This is your boy Brian, a.k.a. El Nino. Today I am joined with Ryan Saba, a.k.a. Captain Cleveland, and we have a very special guest in the building, none other than Sean Patrick Flanery, here to promote his new film released today in select theaters, Born a Champion. Sean, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, brother.
I appreciate it, man. Well, let's get right into it. You know, just kind of tell us what you've been up to, and obviously, we would love to learn a little bit more about Born a Champion.
What have I been up to? Well, for the last 11, 12 days, I've been sequestered. I'm in quarantine. I'm in Toronto, Canada.
Oh, wow.
I'm here to shoot a TV show, but I got 4 more days, so I could give you a tour of this place. I've seen every square millimeter of this place. Have not left once. Like, there's a protocol when you take your garbage out to the garbage chute. So that's what I've been doing in the immediate prior week and a half. I got another half a week or so. The days are blended together to me. But looking forward to getting out of here and then shooting a show for Amazon Prime. It's a TV show that has superheroes in it.
Nice. Love it. I think I know what you're talking about.
I can't say. I'm
so
not
let's
supposed
talk.
to be talking about it. So all I did was tell you the channel.
I think we might have an idea.
Yeah.
All right.
Before we get into
with
that,
a name like Zero Dark Nerdy, you guys might be plugged in.
we do. We are.
Bit.
So talk about Born a Champion. Let's get into that one.
You know what? This is I'm reluctant to even use the term passion project because that usually means something that's bad, but it's some subject matter that somebody loves, so they did it anyway. But it truly is. This is something that I wrote in bed way back in 2007, and that should give you an idea of the gestation process of filmmaking. It took till 2019 for us to actually get on the movie set, and we actually showed it to a motor oil company, Racing Oil Additives, Lucas Oil. Forrest Lucas, his son, Morgan Lucas, and Forrest's wife, Charlotte. They read it, they loved it, and they let us go make a movie. And it's about 5 things that are most important in my life. And that's faith, family, fatherhood, and love and legacy. And a large portion of that is jujitsu. And I wrote the story about that, some of the most impactful things in my life. And I hope that comes across on the screen.
Super Bowl is right around the corner. If you are looking to place a bet on any of the sports going on, betonline.ag is the best and only place to lock it in. From game spreads and totals to team, player, and coaching props, BetOnline gives you more options to wager than any place online, and there is always the online casino as well. It never closes. So head to betonline.ag today and take advantage of all the great sign-up bonuses. Again, that's betonline.ag and sign up today. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts.
So I want to go back to the writing piece of it because, you know, this is your first writing credit, right? So I think that I'm just curious, how is it different? Because you've been acting for a long time, right? So how is it different when somebody else writes it for you and you kind of just you act it out, or when you are the writer and then you are actually physically acting out the words that were coming out of your mind? What's the difference there?
Well, I'll tell you this. I moved out to LA originally to be a writer. I wrote a piece of children's theater and I moved out to LA to be a writer. It just seemed a lot more objective and less subjective to me than being an actor. Excuse me. For example, I felt quite confident that I could wait tables, save my money, rent a theater, and produce a play that I wrote. And in the course of that, an agent said, "Hey, let me submit you on some commercials." And I said, if it supplements my writing income, sure. And then I got a string of those, and she goes, "You know what? Let me submit you on some theatrical, which means TV and movie." I said, "Yeah, if it supplements my income." And the next thing I know, I was on a plane to go do Young Indie. So I actually moved out to be a writer. And it's not that I didn't love acting. I just didn't like something that was that out of my control. It seems like you go into every audition with a lot of hope. There's not a design program that says, if you do these 5 things, you can realize success.
Right.
And I'm not a big put all my eggs in the basket of hope. I'm not a control freak, but I like to be in charge of my destiny. And that's how it happened. Lo and behold, the prospect of being employed as an actor in LA is certainly a lot less daunting than you would think. There are, I don't know how many million actors in LA. The vast majority of them suck. It's just the truth. I mean, I was waiting tables at CGI Fridays, and when a guy saw me in a commercial, he's like, "Man, I think I'm going to get an agent too." This dude had never even thought about acting. There's no barrier to entry. So of course he sucked. He'd never even thought about doing it.
Sure.
So, it's so in essence, I've been a writer for quite some time. I wrote for a number of periodicals. As a matter of fact, right now I'm in development for a piece that originally was published by Jane Magazine in 1998. Wow. I ended up converting it into my first book that was published by Hachette in 2016. And now we're developing it into a fixed part miniseries. Wow. So I've been a writer for a long time, but saying words that are yours as opposed to somebody else. The difference in TV and movie. When you do a film, it seems through 30 years in this business that they're much more open to you putting the words in a way that would leave your tongue in an authentic manner. TV can be very specific. Okay. So although the mediums are quite the same, one's a screen that big, one's a screen that big, but they're just dealt with in a very different manner. But good writing is good writing. I've certainly done scripts where I wouldn't even think of suggesting changing a syllable.
Sure.
And I've done scripts where I thought, this is absolute drivel. It needs a page 1 rewrite. I've made a career out of, if you look at my IMDb page, I think I have 130 something credits. Yeah. I'm not kidding when I tell you 99.5% of them, I hope the public never sees. It's that 0.5, the end result that you're like, man, I hope people watch this.
Sure.
And it always ends up being the 99.5 that they do see, but I see the amount of variables that have to be in sync to make a film great. And you can start with an amazing script. Every decision only takes you away from a perfect score. If you do it right, it just stays there. It doesn't elevate, it just stays there. Every time you cast wrong, it's a little less. Every time you don't get that killer location, you got to rewrite it to satisfy a different location, goes a little less. So I've certainly seen some amazing scripts that get lost in the execution. And then I've seen some that stay buoyant and float to the top.
Support for Zero Dark Nerdy is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. The Manscaped engineering team spent 18 months perfecting the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created and just released a new and improved Lawnmower 3.0. Get 20% off and free shipping with code NERDY. That's right, NERDY, NERDY, at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com using the code NERDY. Nice. So, as far as in regards to your current film, how was it working with Dennis Quaid and Katrina Bowden?
Both of them, I'll be honest with you. When I work with somebody that's an ass, I probably will just go, "Oh, it was great," and move on.
Sure.
But when I work with somebody that's solid, I'll tell you, those two are absolute gems. Katrina Bowden has a certain pathos behind the eyes that I think is irreplicable. Mm-hmm. And she's a wonderful human being. Mm-hmm. Dennis is about as solid a dude as you can find. That's awesome. Dude rolled up onto the set and I'm like, wow, kick your shoes up. You know what I mean? It's like, pass me a beer. The dude is like, you've known him for 20 years and he's solid. Zero pretense. I can't say enough about it. And, I've been a Dennis Quaid fan my whole life, as has everybody else. Right. You don't want somebody like that to let you down, man. Sure. I don't know what happened about this film, but every choice we made kind of held up. It's Reno Wilson was a revelation to me. I'd never even heard of Reno Wilson. And this guy, his rendition of Louis Armstrong, Google search that. The amazing actor and one of the most best humans I've ever met. Maurice Compte, It knocks this role out of the park. We were very lucky. And again, I would probably brush over somebody if they didn't impress me, but if they do, I'll tell you. And across the board with this movie, honored to be on screen with this cast, man. Honestly,
it's awesome. Great. It's great to hear. I mean, the passion's undeniable, man. It's there. I mean, it's great. You kind of talked about you've been doing this for 30 years. You started. I was looking at IMDb. Your first acting credits 1987. I mean, you've really done it all, right? You've done cult classic movies. You've done box office movies. You've done Young and the Restless. You've done TV shows like Dexter. I mean, how has it changed for you? Just you as a person, obviously, you're a family man or whatever, but how's it changed for you as a person, your approach, the process? How's it changed for you over the 30 plus years you've been doing this?
I'd love to give you some big story that involves an arc where I started one place, but it's the same. I mean, I love the process. I love bringing a role to light. I love adding my life experiences to the world of a character that's presented to me. I also love writing them on my own. And the medium has never really mattered to me. Like you said, I've done everything from, student films to soap operas, and I've loved them all. Like when I did Young and the Restless, I loved doing that. I'm not kidding. Yeah. I loved it. Young Indiana Jones let me travel the world. I think I went to 52 different countries on that. I had to get a passport for that job, man. And you said I've done Blockbuster. I don't know what you're talking about, but I appreciate it. But I did one big budget film.
I knew you were going to say that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I did one big budget film, man, ever. And it was with Sylvester Stallone. And it ended up being called I See You. And the one big budget film I did never came out, man, or it came out like 5 years later and kind of went direct to DVD. But that was my first time I'd ever been on set and seen a craft service snack truck that was an 18-wheeler. I mean, it was basically, you could go up there and you could say, you know what? Give me a hot turkey and Swiss, open face, mashed potatoes, gravy. Would you like cream gravy or brown gravy? Hey, you know what? Let's go with cream today. I mean, it was just like, what? I'm used to doing movies where there's like a styrofoam cup with Cheetos and maybe one bruised banana. And I was like, what? I'm like, no wonder movies cost $100 million. That 18-wheeler alone has to be $1 million for the run of this 6-month film. I mean, that was my one experience on a budget like that. And whoo, man, we shot a scene for a week. It kind of blew my mind, man. Wow. So you're right. I have done one big budget, and man, if it was up to me, I'd do a lot of those babies.
I would argue that by the time Boondock Saints 2 came out, that was a movie that a lot of people were looking forward to. That was the one that I considered like the blockbuster, but maybe I was wrong there.
No, don't get me wrong. I mean, both of those films did ridiculous box office. But they came out, Boondock 1 came out to a theater in Chicago for 10 minutes. Right. Boondock 2 went to, I believe the total was 60 theaters, and it lasted in theaters a week, and they pulled it. It made all its money by people taking the DVD and going, wow, watch that.
Yeah.
And that's a very different thing from a huge budget. And again, on both of those films, we didn't have huge budgets to do it at all.
Yeah.
We did it on a shoestring and made something that we're incredibly proud of. And the public embraced it. And the most profound and powerful marketing strategy is when your best friend, who you trust implicitly, goes, dude, watch that.
Right.
Trust me.
That's how I saw the original.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what happened, man. But that's not by design. If it was, everybody would do it. When somebody goes like, how do you make a cult classic? It's like, Every film I've ever made, the hope is that it's a cult classic. Right. You know what I mean? If anybody had the recipe, they'd be pumping them out left and right. It's like when you hear some musician going, my next hit single is going to be, it's like, let's wait and see how it's received determines if it's a hit. Yeah. That's not like, well, I label it. What kind of music do you make? I make hits. Like, you know what I mean? It's like only the public determines success or failure, at least in box office.
Right. Right. And I mean, that definitely did. And we're talking obviously before social media too, because even though you don't judge a book by its cover, obviously the cover of Boondock Saints is very iconic. And I mean, back then when the video stores were open, it was always one that I saw, and that was definitely probably to this day the biggest word of mouth advertising for a movie I've ever seen was Boondock Saints, because it was always one of those, have you seen this? No, you haven't. You need to go watch it. So especially to do it in a time before social media where everybody can just kind of post and hashtag stuff, I mean, just incredibly impressive. And I know it's something that you and the crew are very proud of. I know we got to wrap up here shortly, but we got to ask, obviously, because we are a pop culture podcast. Are there any particular jiu-jitsu fighters that you just really enjoy watching, whether past or present? And do you have any just favorite like kung fu, jiu-jitsu movies, like any kind of like boxing,
Martial
whatever?
arts.
Yeah. any favorites in the catalog?
I mean, all of my jiu-jitsu players I like. I'm a big fan of Damian Maia. I'm a big fan of seeing Nick Diaz on the ground. I mean, guys that truly implement jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of somebody being a specialist and having the ability to take the fight into the arena of that specialization. Mm-hmm. And both of those guys do have the ability. I'm a huge fan to see expertise displayed.
Yeah. Excellent. And then as far as films, any favorite fight films, whether it be Bloodsport or, whether old school, new school, any ones in particular that just kind of stand out to you?
Born a Champion.
Oh, man.
Well,
Born a Champion.
The inspirations to Born a
You guys
Champion.
need to check it out. I like all kind of fight films. Most of my conflict films are war films, like the original Battle of Midway. But man, come on. I mean, I loved Above the Law, the Seagal film when it came out. I've seen them all, man. Yeah. All of them. From Bruce Lee to, come on, man. I've seen them all. I've been a martial artist since I was 9.
Wow.
And there's some of them that are utterly ridiculous.
Terrible.
I still love them, man.
Yeah.
I still love them. I still watch them multiple times. Despite the ridiculousness, I'm watching that shit.
Awesome. Well, Sean, man, thank you so much for joining us today. Everybody be sure to check out Born a Champion. Came out today, so be sure to check it out. Select theaters. It will be out on Blu-ray as well as DVD January 26th, but you can find it on demand and in select theaters today. Again, big thank you to Sean Patrick Flanery. Thank you so much for joining us. Best luck and success to this current film and, of course, future projects. And anytime that you ever want to jump on the show, man, we'd love to have you. The passion screams from the microphone and from the screen. And you're just a big ball of energy.
Especially after that Amazon Prime show comes out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for our latest episode of Zero Dark Nerdy with the one and only Sean Patrick Flanery, brought to you by Katie Simmons, realtor and broker for Allen Tate. Be sure to check her out for all your local real estate needs here in the Triad. Her number is 336-501-3548, and you can also reach her at katiesimmons.allentate.com.
Yeah! Victory!
And anger management?
Fuck anger management.
Thank you for listening to Believe. You can show support to your host by subscribing to the show and giving us a 5-star rating on your preferred platform. Check us out at Believe.com and search for BLEAV on YouTube.